Hello, you. Ooh, there we go. Hello, YouTube. I'm here with Mr. Vince Lucchetti. Did I pronounce that right?
Lucchetti, but
Lucchetti.
close enough.
All right. Well, you wanted to come on and talk because you are running for Area 8, and I thought that would be certainly a good conversation for the YouTube audience. I haven't been doing a podcast lately, but maybe they want, to hear about some things that are going on.
Well, I miss the fact that you don't do your podcast anymore. I thought that they were entertaining, certainly, but you put the stuff out there, and
Yes, it will come back. I mean, an unfortunate byproduct of getting kicked out of USPSA is it made me a lot busier with work. So I'm gone most of the time now. But I think things will slow down hopefully next year. Anyway, so what prompted you to run?
I've been thinking about it for a year or two and kind of put it on the back burner. And then all this other stuff started hitting the fan, thanks to folks like you and Derek and some others. Papa Joe getting banned was one of the things that really scalded my britches. I didn't care for that at all. And not that I didn't care for you guys being banned. It just got to be, what the hell's going on? And so I got to a point that, well, I could stay at the range and keep on bitching and complaining like everybody else is doing, or I could step up and try to do something. I ended up putting my petition in towards the last minute because I'd been being told for months that Ted was not going to run. And then all of a sudden on the USPSA page, there's Ted running and there's Russell running. And it was, wait, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
So we're talking Area 8, Ted running and Russell Fortney running. And that wouldn't make sense because Russell's kind of on the same page, right?
Exactly. And I'm looking at it and having a slightly suspicious turn of mind. I'm wondering if this is just a decoy to stop people from running, because I heard of some really great people in Area 8 that were considering running, and none of them stepped up. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, maybe Ted's going to pull out at the last minute, and then Russell's going to get in and run unopposed. And that happens too much in Area 8. I had one of the area directors tell me there hasn't been a true election since 2010, because somebody either gets appointed and then they end up running unopposed. So you really don't have a true election. And that rankled the bejesus out of me.
So here's a question for you. You seem to indicate, and I would agree with you on this, that so Russell and Ted are kind of part of the same crew. So you would say you believe that there's a small group of people kind of controlling USPSA. You would say that that's true?
I would say that's true. I think they're looking at grooming their home-picked candidates so that they can continue to keep the same group, if you will, calling the shots, particularly now as opposed to in the past. I don't think things were as nasty 5-10 years ago, or even 20 years ago when I started back in 2000. But now it just seems to be this cabal, for lack of a better term.
Well, it does seem like there's a lot more money at stake now than there used to be. At least that's my read on it.
Well, I'm getting that impression just from the way they're behaving about the finances.
Yes.
When Scott, as a finance committee chairman, can't get financial information, when the bylaws say that he can ask anybody and their responsibility is to give it to him, and he doesn't have support from the other board members, that lets me know that there's something wrong somewhere.
Well, so you're referring to some emails that were leaked out and are authentic, by the way. Scott Arnberg sending a long email, like a page, to I would say very delicately ask. But I mean, he's pressing on specific points, but he's being quite diplomatic. And I would even say, like, it was a very benign email, honestly, just asking for financial stuff. And then the USPSA employee was saying she felt threatened by it.
Yes.
Right. So that those emails leaked out. That's what you're referencing. Scott's the Area 3 director, and as you pointed out, head of the finance committee. And I should say, in his real job, he does financial. He does financial stuff. I don't know exact. I forget exactly what he does, but finance is his business.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly, it is.
and they don't want him looking at the financial stuff, which is kind of weird when your nonprofit organization is losing money, right? So you'd
Well,
think maybe Scott could find a solution to that.
well, exactly. He could find out where it's bleeding, how it's bleeding. Are they following the proper policies and procedures that they have in place? Do they have policies and procedures in place? It's just stuff like that that really got me going. And because I also was a finance committee chairman when I was in public office, I know what he's going to be looking for. I know what questions he's going to be asking, and they're going to be pointed questions. They're going to be requests for detailed information that may or may not exist, that is required to exist.
Yeah, well, my spidey sense tingles the same as yours that there's some financial, fuckery happening here on some level. That seems pretty much, I mean, irrefutable.
Well, it's either they're trying to hide something there, or their resistance to him getting that is a misdirection so that he doesn't go looking in other places as well, or other people aren't starting to ask other questions. So it might be one of the two. I don't know. I'm just very suspicious, and I no longer trust the board. And unfortunately, Scott and Frank get lumped into that comment. When we say we don't trust the board, they're now part and parcel of the board just by getting elected. Just like I would be if I were to get elected and people say the board sucks. Well, I'm going to be one of those suckers there.
Right. So I assume based on your reading the minutes, I think you're probably following that closely. Would you say you'd be more aligned with Frank and Scott as far as the issues you're talking about and the way you're voting on stuff? Or would you be
Yes.
voting the other direction?
No, I'd be in line with them. And as I learn more and more stuff, you know, because we don't know enough about everything. And I know we don't know that because if you look at the minutes don't tell you anything. So there's more going on than just finance and the bylaws being ignored and people being banned. There's more than that there.
Right. So you're referring to it's like so you'd say the minutes are purposefully designed to give you no information. That'd be the best way I could describe it.
I think if you look at the minutes and then you find out what went on, it's very clear that you're being given the minimal amount of information.
Right. The minutes are designed not to inform you.
They're designed not to inform, yet as a legal document, they are supposed to be the record of what happened. And if you read them, well, then nothing happened. Why did they even have a meeting?
Yeah. So you have that, and then you have them be sort of very resistant to having public conversations. Like none of these guys goes and answers questions. I think it's fair to say none of the guys on the board.
Well, and again, they're required to do that. They're responsible for doing that. That's why they got elected, was to represent people. And you can't represent people if you don't tell them what you're doing and what's going on. We're all being treated like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed bullshit.
Yeah. So has your opinion on Ted shifted in the last, 5 years or something?
He's never been actively involved in the Western Pennsylvania section and what's going on. He would show up for the section matches, but other than that, I don't recall him being around at all, and him spending his time elsewhere. And then whenever I've made some comments to him on Facebook, his dismissal of me and my questions or comments as, "You're just some guy on social media. What the hell do you know?" And that just showed me that he knows nothing about his membership, unless it's the small group he likes to hang around. We have so many intelligent, talented, and capable people, physicians, machinists, that whole gamut there. And to make a blanket statement that somebody who says something on social media doesn't know as much as their Bama attorney does just flies in the face of reality, because you've got probably 1,000 lawyers that are shooting USPSA that know more law than the Bama lawyers, and yet to say that comment when somebody asks a pointed question just lets me know that you don't want to hear what somebody has to say. You're immediately disregarding a comment because it doesn't fit in with the narrative that you like.
Yeah, he makes the mistake on social media of you never know who you might be talking to.
Exactly.
You never know. I mean, it could be one direction or the other. I really was struck by Ted's statement he put out. Well, I mean, I guess just to catch people up on some things that are happened. I mean, this whole Yeeman Lynn incident. What was your read on that situation, and then the outcome?
Well, I had posted a comment, not too long ago, that it's ironic that they got rid of Yi Min, considered that he resigned because he no longer had his RO certification, because the bylaws say you're supposed to do that. Yet that's the very same bylaws that they disregarded for months when it came to Mel taking office and not having that required. So I don't think they get the irony in the fact that they use the very bylaws that they violated to take care of one of their own to yeet.
Yeeman.
Yeah, Yeeman. Yeah.
Yeah. So they did. So it's clear for people, when Matt announced that he was going to be running for president, you might remember the board called the time out and extended the time until they were going to have an election, so they could rewrite the bylaws for the organization, change the rules, so to speak. And they stripped the presidency of a bunch of power and added in some other rules. Among them, you have to be a range officer to be on the board. And if you're not a range officer, you're off the board immediately. So Yeeman coincidentally lost his range officer status and was gone from the presidency, gone from the board. Mel Rodero's on the board, no range officer status, never took a class, never showed up to one, not a problem. And that's a pretty strange set of circumstances there to have happen, right? I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, really.
Well, it's beyond embarrassing, because you have the membership that all they have to do is read the bylaws and they see what's supposed to happen. So you have this happen after you guys all get banned because you hurt some people's feelings by saying some things. And then they go right ahead and do what they say you shouldn't do because, well, they talked about it supposedly, but there's nowhere in the minutes that reflects the fact that they talked about giving an extension to Mel, and there's no allowance for it in the bylaws.
That's not in the bylaws. That's like, right.
But somehow the attorney of record for USPSA and that law firm wasn't involved in any of that. They bring this fellow up from Alabama who now all of a sudden is giving them all the answers they want. How convenient that is, that you have somebody that comes in, from what some of the area directors have told me, they had no idea about what his qualifications were or what he does. And as we found out, he's an ambulance chaser and takes care of sex crimes. So that's the exact individual that we need to have representing USPSA, or at least some of the board members could get some tips and tricks from him.
Well, okay, so you had Ted put out a statement, and he said that he wasn't really sure how to interpret the bylaws. He needed the lawyer, the Bama lawyer you're referring to interpret the bylaws for him. Do you remember that statement?
Yeah, it's okay. you put down everybody else because you think they're stupid, and then all those stupid people are able to read the bylaws, and then you've got to bring somebody up to interpret it for you who just happens to interpret it the way you'd like it to be interpreted. Mere coincidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ted is the type of person that can do that level of bullshit with a straight face. It is kind of amazing to watch. So moving forward, what direction do you want to see the organization move in, or what kind of priorities would you have over this term?
Well, the first priority is to know what I don't know. There's some information out there that I'm not privy to, and if I get on the board, I want to be privy to it. Obviously, the finances need to be squared away. If we're losing $850,000 to $1 million, we got to find out why. And we can't keep doing what we're doing and expect us to start making money if we don't know why we're bleeding. And is the bleeding because of the what is it, the stipends that we give to the area directors and the president? Is that an issue? Is it being abused? Why are we losing money on nationals? Are we cutting bad deals? What are we doing that's causing us to lose money? That's the first thing. We got to right the ship before we could go ahead and start doing anything else. And I think that's the first direction that I'd like to go if I get on the board.
Yeah. Well, I can't say I disagree with you, but a lot of guys, what other hot topics are there? I suppose limited optics would be an interesting topic. What's your read on that?
It'll be an interesting topic. You know, they told us, what, a half a year ago that they weren't going to do it. And then all of a sudden, we have a provisional division that has it going. What bothers me about limited optics is that we seem to be wanting to get away from the power part of practical shooting. I mean, we have DVC for a reason. And to all of a sudden want to eliminate doing things with major power factor for limited optics, I'd like to go and explore that a little bit more and find out the rationale to split it up like that. That's one that has me questioning.
Does USPSA need more divisions, or how many more do you think it needs?
No, I don't think it needs. Well, I can't say that because I don't know what the field is going to look like 5 years from now. You know, had we really thought about optics on stock pistols, on others, then all of a sudden it became fashionable and in vogue, and then we ended up getting production optics and carry optics out of that one. So I'll keep an open mind to it, but I don't think we need to have more participation trophies for everybody, and that seems to be what throwing all these divisions on is, to provide participation trophies for those folks that can't do what they would like to do in certain divisions.
Yeah. Well, Vince, is there anything else you wanted to say, or any other topics you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'd like to bring up the fact that we seem to vote in individuals because they're either popular or because they're the nice guy that everybody likes to hang with. But that's great if you're just at the range, but for a board level position, you got to have people that are bringing something extra to it. We're all shooters. We all are range officers, CROs, match directors, range masters. But are those the same skill sets that you need to be a member of a board? Most traditional boards have CPAs on them. Most traditional boards have attorneys that are on the board. Yet all we have are shooters. And that's great if you were putting together a shooting team. But if you're putting together a board of directors to be able to manage a $1 million or multi-million-dollar company, whether it is for profit or not for profit, you want to make sure that the people that are getting elected to the board have some skill sets to add to it, as opposed to just going with the crowd for whatever's going along, and ask some questions that people might not want to have asked.
Yeah, one of the things I really dislike uh, about shooters is like they'll meet a guy and shake their hand once, and like I can do this. Like people will meet me and I smile at them and shake their hand, and then we go our separate ways. Like they'll be like, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and it's just like you don't even know me. Like it was in your presence for 3 seconds.
Exactly. And that's that popularity part. They'll go and tell you that, yeah, I know Ben, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And, vote him in, do this or do that. And then once somebody like that gets in there, you see what they are and you see what they do. And they've got these fragile little egos that need to be stroked because now I'm in a position of power. And we get what we have happening with USPSA. Failed leadership, which is what happened with Foley. If the board had their shit together and were taking care of business when stuff was happening, like they jumped on Yi-Min on his issues, we never would have had a lot of the things happen that ended up happening.
Yeah. Well, it's my belief that Foley was doing what he was doing at the behest of the board.
Same difference.
I kind of say it like this, Troy has the position he has. I mean, he's awful the way he treats people, honestly. Like Troy McManus he's a nightmare to deal with. And the reason he stays in that position is because he does what he's told by these guys. I mean, that's my belief.
Well, I had some dealings with him at the 2018 Area 8. So I've experienced some of his behavior firsthand, as have a number of the folks that have shot nationals that I also shoot with, that the favorite pastime is the latest Troy story. So yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Well, Vince, thank you so much for coming on. I'll post this straight away, and yeah, I think people will like it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.